hit a lot of subjects real quickly, and where did they go to? I can only say a lot of things have happened in my life. I have been into a lot of different subjects, both with the Bible, both with the undergrad, both with the business. My father was a technical contractor. I had a lot of things that I wanted to do. And if you are living, you'll find that as you unfold and search for who you are, things will begin to happen with you. I'm one of those persons, when they begin to happen, I follow them up. I'm a completer. Don't start me on something unless you want it finished. Just like that. I get very tenacious. And if it's half done, it bothers me. That's just why I say, please don't get me involved. Don't get me there, because it takes on too much. It gives me all kind of gray hairs, extra wrinkles, and all kind of worries. But one thing is for sure, I have no problem sleeping. It comes down to into bed at night, I'm gone. One of the reasons I got into the study of pyramids and pyramid power was because they told me that if you could sleep under a pyramid, and for those people who had slept in the Great Pyramid, I have not had that honor, that it was a relaxing type thing. I said, relaxing? I said, yes, and I want to try it. I stepped under a prototype pyramid, which the Metaphysician, of which I'm the director, used to build. The brother was asking me about that now. Do we do anything in the line of pyramids? We did. We don't now, other than to sell pyramid water. But I slept up there for approximately 8 months. And what happened was my elimination speeded up. I was going to the bathroom all night long. Then finally I hit a peak, I guess, after I detoxed, and then nothing happened. I would dream in color, and to save me, I could not sleep more than 4.5 hours a night. This was after about the 3rd month. Well, after a while, I got tired of that. And again, we kind of backed off of it. But to get to that point, so many other things happened in my life. And this is where I want to kind of start with this at this time. Whoa, okay, I thought I was talking pretty loud. Maybe I'm not talking to the mic, though.
The mic doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't do anything in the back. Okay, I'm going to try and do so. I still could use the light, but I heard that. Pyramid Power, the update, and that's pretty much the secrets of the Great Pyramid update, is going to take you tonight into some very interesting realms. How far we go with that after the initial setup of what Pyramid Power is and about the Great Pyramid will be up to you. I will take it into certain realms if during the question and answer session, and I always offer that when I give a lecture because I don't feel you should present a lot of information and then run away. Don't run away. I take all the challenges or try to have people make comments if you choose. So there will be, if not an extensive, at least some question and answer session. Let me also say that I received a number of calls, thank you, in Chicago at the center, and they tried to delineate who wanted consultations and who didn't. Well, that has not been solved, so I have a clipboard here. If you want the consultation, and hopefully it will be tomorrow, then please sign this sheet before you leave. If it is for other purposes, then sign it, but don't put a check mark. When I see a check mark, it will be for those who want consultations. I have 5 people already who are pretty much permanently fixtured for tomorrow. And we still, sorry again, don't have a location. We're thinking of the Regis Hotel. But until that is verified, we probably can't begin to see people there until noon. That will be open. So your phone number on here will be very important. I'm saying all of this because once I get into a subject, I forget. I get into it very deeply. So these are the things that you may want to know at the beginning. Let's see. There's something else I was asked to mention, and it slips my mind. So be it. Pyramids and pyramid power. When you think of pyramids, you already think, of course, a place called Africa. And up in that northwest corner, you think of a place that is known as the Giza Plateau. I doubt if there's anyone in here that has never heard of pyramids, of pyramid power, and the pharaohs, and Egypt, and Nubia, and all of the concepts that go along with it. But I like to start this in this way by saying again that on the continent of Kemet, or Ka, or various names like Cubuland, whatever you will, at a latitude 29 degrees, 58 feet, 51 inches north, at a longitude 31 degrees 9' east on the exact intersection of the 31st meridian Greenwich time, for those of you who are latitudinal and longitudinal experts, you find what I consider to be the wonder of this planet. And it is really a token to the grandeur of this planet and some of the intelligent life forms that have been on it and hopefully are still on it, right? Right, okay. On the continent of Africa, in the country of Egypt, midway between Memphis and Alexandria, all located within the province of which is called Giza, which is near the city of Cairo, and a midway point between Upper and Lower Egypt, bordering on the rich cultivated land in the valley standing near the eastern edge of a particular desert, stands the wonder of all worlds. Anybody know the eastern edge of what desert this wonder is located? Sahara. How many say Sahara? Let me see your hand. You're wrong. Now you say, oh, I'm not wrong, you're wrong. Mr. What do you mean telling me I'm wrong? Well, the Sahara has enroached on this wonderful continent of Africa. It used to be the Libyan desert that it was built upon. But the enroaching Sahara, you have sand. Sand doesn't ask you a name. Sand goes where it wants to go. One of the challenges of Africa, or Kemet, or Capri, or Kiboland, or whichever you would, is these desert areas, the Kalahari on, that are enroaching. And now those two deserts have come together, which now gives us, or should have given, the topographers and the archaeologists a key. Were they open-minded? The fact that now those deserts are one, but it didn't seem to faze them when all of their potential type of understanding about what the Great Pyramid is. This particular wonder has been studied and researched, and a lot of information is given about it. Some of the information is as follows. It covers over 13 acres on a plateau, that it is made a lot of basalt because it's not too far out from the Nile River, if you will. That it is an equilateral triangle, that it soars some 481 feet to the air with 4 sides at the base. It is 750 feet long. And the distance between the top and the corner, what they call the apex and one corner again, is the same as the base, which means it is a perfect equilateral triangle. 4-sided wonder, if you will. It weighs close to 6 million tons and is composed of 2,500,000 blocks of stone. I like to stop with that because when you say 2,500,000 blocks of stone, we may think about the bricks that we see our buildings built on, or we may think of a big concrete pillar, but these blocks of stones are very interesting because of the 2,500,000 blocks that compose this pyramid structure. The smallest weighs 3 3/4 tons. Now, you can begin to say that's good, but I like to have people identify. When you use your minds, when you think, when you fantasize, when you get into something, it has more potential for you. I like to get the idea. Let's just say a small car. Most cars now are getting to be pretty big once again, but a small car, some of the fellas or some of the young ladies and sisters and brothers, tell me what you think a small car would weigh. Prototype that you're running around the street now. Give me a name of a car, how much you think it will. 1.5 tons. Which car is that name? Okay. Sable, okay. Give me another car, someone.
5,000.
Right?
About 5,000.
About 5,000 pounds or tons? Pounds, okay. Another guess, one of the brothers here. Let me give them an idea what you think a car weighs. One more, come on, somebody, let me hear a man.
A Ram truck weighs about 2 tons.
All right, how many? 2 tons. That means that the smallest brick stone, whatever you want to call it, in the Great Pyramid, weighs as much as what kind of a truck?
A Ram truck.
Ram's truck. 2 tons. Right? It weighs more than that. Now keep that in mind when you understand that close to close to 1.5 million of them are the size of ram trucks, the weight of ram trucks. You start talking about now the stones in the Great Pyramid. 1.5 million ram trucks weighted in there. When we begin to look at it even further, that means that some of these stones that are used there, if you want to call them stones, weigh 100 tons. Now you're talking about an airplane. You're talking about an airplane with full cargo and passengers on board. And when you begin to talk about that and you start thinking that maybe 50 of them weigh that, you got really a tremendous item here. But let's move even further. In the King's Chamber and laying on an angle up the Grand Gallery and in what is called the Queen's Chamber, these are names that have been given, you have stone granite structures that weigh close to 300 tons each. 300 tons each. Use your imagination now. Just went to the ram truck where they're just counting. Now we got 10 or so things weighing 300 tons each, made of granite, one of the hardest substances known to man. When we look even further on with this, we find that they say it was between 2,686 BC and 2,181 BC that this structure was built. And mind these figures. And that it was built for a pharaoh who utilized 100,000 slaves working night and day for 20 years to get it erected. And once it was erected there, of course, he was buried there. Now, before we get into the story of the burial, the story of all of this, I don't want to skim over anything, because when I take you on this way out trip, you're going to be hopefully going with me this evening. I want the groundwork to have been laid, so you don't say, well, you skimmed over the heavy part, you got into the esoteric metaphysical mess, but you didn't handle the details. Stay with me, we will handle the details. Okay? Let's question one of the details right quickly. Usually in the movie by Daryl Zelnick or Cecil B. DeMille, J.R. Rank, all deceased gratefully now, they begin to, you heard that, they began to set off a movie by which Yul Brynner and Charlton Heston are sitting up there, the Pharaoh and his first mate, the gendarme, whoever the general is at that time. And in the distance, they're building the Great Pyramid structure. And as they build it, in the distance, they're talking about who they're going to conquer and what women they're going to have and how much money they're going to bring back to Egypt. And then zoom, Charlton Heston's off making money, women, and whatever else they're going to do. And he comes back, of course, when he comes back to Egypt, the wonder of wonders is already built. There in the distance is a pyramid. Wouldn't it be nice if that's all that you really had to do? You talk about it, you go off and do what you got to do, you come back up the same age, and there stands the Great Pyramid. That always amazed me, but I said, well, J.R. Rank and Joe Zelnick put in the money so they can do what they want to do. And that same kind of thought process I find is entered into the so-called professors in these colleges, universities, and teachers in high schools. Hope I'm not talking about it. For your teaching and saying the same thing that those producers of the movie said, and in those encyclopedias and books, it's the same kind of printed information. And choose that word here, information about the Great Pyramid. 100,000 slaves working night and day for the great pharaoh to be buried there again, so many feet on a plateau. When we move further with that, though, we have to begin to question this plateau, these builders, and the like. First of all, they show that the pyramid is built up of these big slabs of stone. Now, we just named 2,500,000 of them. 3 3/4 all the way down to 300-ton megaliths. I don't even know what you call it. And some of them, hear me well, are composed of solid granite. Now, my history and my research shows me that granite is composed of compressed igneous rock, which means that you take the regular rock you have, and then you have to really pack it. You have to put weight on that thing. And granite is usually found under mountain ranges. Hear me well. There is usually no force known to human here that can compress rock like that, except for lengths of time when rocks and mountains and so have built up upon this rock to make it that thick. It breaks diamond drills at times. That's how tightly compressed that rock is. Now, I asked, where did they get the rock to build the Great Pyramid? Thus scholars say, well, they got it from basalt, because a lot of that pyramid is basalt. Not a lot, some of that pyramid is basalt. There are a lot of little pyramids at the foot there on that plateau that were obviously not composed in the same manner, don't show the same geometric understanding, and are not showing the same kind of architecture. Nor is all of that pyramid made of basalt, or that's a fool. And the basalt that they may find around there, where they say, well, they can show excavation sites and they have other things, we find that that was done after Napoleon was there. It was done by the French also in 1908, and many other things about that don't make sense the way that they spell it out in the encyclopedias and in the dictionary. But let's go on with that. Let's just let all the basalt be. But now let's go for the granite. We'll go for the jugular real quickly here. Where did they get the granite from? Now, Africa is not known for mountain ranges. There are 13 of them, as I understand. But the closest one, and I assume that at the time they built it, they go to the closest one, around there, is close to 1,100 miles away. Now, I don't know what may be deep under the ground there, but I don't think those slaves are digging too far deep under the ground there, so they'd probably go to where they could find the best granite possible at the shortest distance. They found it and they quarried it. But how did they get it to the site? And how did they quarry something that diamond drills and bits and pylons and all type of excavating equipment now couldn't do? They asked Gus K. Newberg, and I'm from Chicago, and that area, he's one of the biggest, oldest contractors, you know, one of the old gentlemen there. And he said he wouldn't take on the job. Now this is back 2,686 BC, and according to the history they're teaching you, they had flintstones, they had some copper, a little gold, but they weren't doing anything to extricate a granite structure weighing 300 pounds out of a solid mountain underneath it. I don't even want to talk about the 15 that comprise the king and the queen. I want to know about one. Well, how did they get one to that site? And then get it up off the ground and inside 1/4 way up on a structure weighing 6 million tons and 2,500,000 composition blocks. And they have smaller weights underneath that big one. And I would love for somebody, no, I don't want you to stay around trying to hem and haw all that time. Don't tell me how it was done. You think about how it was done, because I don't know how it was done based on what they've told me. And they have these granite giants right there. How did they get them? Oh, but I do want you to solve one problem for me. How many men, slaves, or whatever they use, did it take to cut the rocks and bring them, 2,500,000 of them now, to that site? How many of the 100,000 would you use for that? Let me get 3 guesses again. I hope the fellows pick up this guy. How many of the, would you use them? How many slaves? Now you got 100,000. How many did you commit to moving and pouring 2,500,000 blocks of stone? All of them? Okay, well let's just say, maybe 100. Maybe 100 of them? Yeah, you're as facetious as I am. All right, how many say all of them you commit to that job? How many say half of them you commit to that job? I mean, say, I don't know, let's get on with the whole lecture. We'll get on with the whole lecture. But remember, you got 100,000 slaves. When you see them in the movies, these stones, again, are resting on something that they can pull along. I have a blackboard here, and I don't want to start writing on something I shouldn't be writing on. But imagine in your mind, you have all of these 2,500,000 stones, or bricks, or whatever you want to call them, that you've got to move to a site. And they usually are on logs. Look at me, aren't you? They're on these logs, and they're moving along on these logs. Now, I'm sometimes not too bright. I do the best I can with what I have. Always need more. And I looked at this and I said, now logs to me mean wood. Wood to me means trees. And trees to me means hardwood, sequoia, redwood, things like this. And I said, boy, Kafir, Akibuland, Egypt, Africa is noted for sequoia and redwoods and hardwoods, like I'm in Canada, right? What are you laughing at? Isn't it known for that? Well, I didn't know that at the time, so I went research because that's what my professors and teachers told me. So I figured they told me and what? It had to be right? Because I'm in there for education, right? And they're educated, right? So my education let me go and look again, and I found out that they didn't have anything like that over in Africa. That they had cycas, palm. What is some other? Can somebody help me? Well, now you had to go and spot. You used intelligence here. That's what you intelligence. I found that the hardest wood in Africa was mahogany. And I found mahogany didn't grow all over Africa. There was a central area near the Congo. And I started saying, Congo here, Egypt here. And I said, boy, like that little chihuahua said in the commercial, I guess I get a bigger rock. Because something wasn't right there to get that stuff from one place to the other. And I said, how many men did they commit to felling and quarrying trees, cutting down? In fact, they have what they call a forestry project. Because to move 2,500,000 boxes of stone, the smallest one weighing 3 3/4 tons, like that. What you told me had a ram truck? Ram trucks we got to move now. How many logs do you think it took?
The whole forest.
And while we're thinking about that, understand that the unique thing about trees, they have limbs and branches. And if they don't have a lot of limbs and branches, they have at least a truncation. They bend over, and they do have something that grows on the top, especially like with the palm. Okay? So not only do you have to axe the tree down, because they didn't have pneumatic drills and saws. You got to axe it down, and they axe it down, they axe it down. And then you had to trim it, and then you had to get it to the site. How many men did that take? Those of you committed your 100,000 men, you can't go You're out of here. Man, you're fired. You're foreman, you're gone. How many more men now we're going to commit to that? Well, while you're pondering on that one, let's get to another one. They are usually in the movies and in the books pulling these bricks and stone. And some, of course, with these other logs are pushing, don't look at me like that, pushing these bricks and stone. Okay? Now we're pushing this all up to the job site. What are they pulling it with? Hemp rope. Is that man money? Not mine. Give that man the money. Okay? Hemp rope. Hemp rope. Think about what you just said. Hemp rope. How much rope do you think it's going to take? What are you laughing about? You keep laughing at me. I don't like that. I'm not a comedian. I'm telling you historical facts like they do in the colleges and universities. And if they are the rank of Zelle, they can make movies of it. Then you bought. So that the kids buy. So the wrong other kind of kids buy. How much rope? Hemp through a process called rattling. And usually it has a tuber-seeking vine that seeks water. And here's a desert area now. What's the name of that desert, by the way? Oh, you with me? You're with me. Now, here's this tuber-seeking water vine that you have to dig up, chop off, and then let dry out, and through a process called retting. Encyclopedia got the whole thing on retting. And you got to chop it, and you beat that, and nobody's breaking into my house, I'm not hitting it. They're just breaking off all of these little pieces. And then you re-wet them, and before they dry, you weave them together to form rope. How many people you say were engaged in that? Now we got, how many slaves we're using now? 100,000. We've got them committed to brick laying, quarrying, wood cutting, and forestry. And I figured one way they did too, what they probably did, they knew, because the Moors, they said, were very ancient people, so maybe they're more ancient than we thought. They knew about America, and they flew over there, and they went to Canada and Washington, and they got them back, and they dropped them down, and they floated, or else they floated across the ocean. I thought about that, but it seemed like it was kind of far-fetched. How does that feel to you? So now we got to go back to our last problem here again. What are we talking about now? The rope. As you're figuring that one out, remember, they're building this now on a desert. A desert is made of what?
Sand.
Everybody knows. If you're going to build the Regis Hotel, if you're going to build the Empire State Building, if you're going to build the strongest, heaviest structure known to man on this planet, you build it on sand, right? Every architect, engineer, anybody knows that you always build a structure like that on sand. Because sand shifts, it displaces, and that's what you really have fun with. You build it on sand. Man, I want to build this thing on sand yesterday, right? Down payment first, $1 billion, then we talk. Why did they build it on sand? And if they built it on sand, how did they stop it from shifting? Now I know why the deserts moved. Well, they said boom, and all the sand ran over this way and all the sand ran over this way. Have you ever walked in sand? Isn't that fun? For about the first hour and a half mile. That is good hot. You know, they got a commercial out with all the weightlifters running on sand. They said, oh my God, you know, not only will it burn the heck out of your feet and any other thing you put up there since it's been that long, but it moves. And the hardest thing in the world to walk on is sand. Now they're not walking on the sand. They are pulling, they are pushing, they are cutting, building, cursing, and sweating. We wouldn't talk about that. And then we want a union, and then they retired, and then they died. They last out there 1 week. Another thing about deserts, I found out, deserts have something called sandstone. It seems to be notorious for it certain seasons. It might be one every day for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Have you ever seen a facing of a building when they're trying to clean it? They use sandblasting. You ever seen sandblasting operation? That current or that air moves at 80 to 115 miles an hour. Sandstorms double that. They can go anywhere from 80 to 250 miles an hour. How did they work during the sandstorm season? That is a fair question, don't you think? They built it on a desert. She should be the military. I was a ranker. My professor said how they did it. I said, you got downtime. I'm not going to work in something moving 200 miles an hour for you or anybody else. I quit. Well, if I can't quit, I'm going to lay down on the job, literally, and try to breathe. In 20 years' time, how much downtime do you think they had from sandstorm? So they didn't use the full 20 years to build it, okay? And of course, the poor feet, they had blisters, and this is where Dr. Scholl's and all the foot pads came in. That's why we have magnets now, because we said we got to do something with the feet. People know about their feet. Feet hurt. Yeah. And feet hurt if you work that hard, with bunnies and all like that. Have I desecrated that temple testimony that said it was built by 100,000 slaves yet? Or do I need to go on with this and bore you some more? Why don't they ask these kind of questions in school, and why do you allow them to teach your kids that way? Why do you believe it?
Really, really.
That's the question, because you're intelligent. That's why you want me to move on with other things. No need to move on to esoteric things when everything you've been told is esoteric. What a bigger fairy tale have you bought? Without question.
Go ahead.
Don't get angry with me for pointing it out to you. Say, I'm glad he did, and I broke it down so I would think. Because when you think, you're dangerous. Think. might smile, but you're still thinking. Nobody knows what you're thinking while you're smiling. That's it. They then said, and I'm going to skip a lot of boring details because I got them all laid out. But I will say some of the things that they did say about it after that. They said it was built, of course, for the great Pharaoh. What's the name of the Pharaoh they built it for? He did it so you'd always remember it. Ramesses. Yeah. Which one was it? Khafre. Interesting. One man buried there, and everybody knows him because that's why he's famous for being buried there. Here I have an Afrocentric consciousness group, and you tell me 5 names already. Okay? Well, don't feel bad. They intended for it to be that way. Once they got to the pyramid, those later on who came there to try and explore it and find out what was happening in it, they tried to find the entranceway for it. They had a hard time because they never found an entranceway at the base. They went 40 feet up. And some slaves, all these slaves or workmen there doing something, whatever they were doing there, was considered the Egyptian government. Again, kind of cantilevered backwards and set backwards and found something seemed to move. And to make a long story short, they found the entrance to the Great Pyramid 40 feet up from the base, and a stone moved. Some kind of engineering marvel, and this is where they finally found it. And then, before that time, they had used TNT and blasted at the base. They'd done everything trying to get in there. But once they got in there, they made their way immediately to the king's chamber to find the great Pharaoh. And of course, once they went in there, and they found what Pharaoh again? What Pharaoh did they find? Who? Ramses. What? The lady that said, the sister that said, the beautiful person that said none was right. They found the mystery of the empty tomb. All of this building, he worked these guys like mad. They quit on him. He was hated and cursed, and he forgot to be buried. All of that trouble, he forgot to be buried there, or his men were so angry with him. After he died, they said, forget him, we're going to bury him someplace nobody ever find him. They found the mystery of what? The empty tomb, the open sepulcher. They stated, however, that his name was Khufu. And the Greeks couldn't pronounce very well. I get tongue-tied a lot. They said Cheops. Don't ask me how Khufu became Cheops, but that's what it did. And so Cheops Khufu was buried there, but he wasn't. Are you still with me? You better watch me. If you stay with me, you're going to get kind of messed up. But you are still with me. Going slow enough. Good. All of this goes on to then find that at the Pyramid Giza site, there is not one pyramid, but 5. And really, 55. How did I get these figures? You got your big 3. Everybody sees that in movies and you travel on. By the way, what are the names of the pharaohs buried in the 2 flanking pyramids that Khufu forgot to be in? Tut? Who? Khafre? People over here, I gotta watch them. We can't tell us. I don't want to talk to you. Blow my whole game. All right, you're right. Let's not go further because you already answered it. Khufu was on one side, Khafre was on the other side, which they later on, the Greeks again call it Shephren. Don't ask me how Khafre became Shephren. I guess they said Shephren for my money because I can't give you a Khafre. No. That didn't come out right either. But then on the other side, they have what they call King Mankure, or we call it Mankura. He's probably right. And the Greeks called him Mycerinus. Never did too many things with Greeks. We study classic Greek history, don't we? Yeah, okay. So here are these 3 things laid out. Khufu, Khafre, and what do you call it? Ankara? Ankara. All right. There they are. They found a body of an Arab in Mankara's tomb. They haven't found any bodies except for a back or something in the other one, and they don't even like to talk about what they call the unclassified pyramids, because what they did find in there was so astounding. Nobody seems to want to back them in the corner about what the heck is in this other pyramid. And they don't even talk about the two around the bend, pointing the way toward Luxor. And they talk about the 55 outside, which anybody can see was built after that with less skilled labor. Because they didn't have 100,000 men willing to fight like that later. And then they weren't even built in the same substance. That's where you get your base off. The games that they play with the human mind and man's mind are interesting to me. But yet we seem to fall victim to all of that foolishness. They had one other thing. I got to throw this in too. I have to lay this base out very well. There was a big argument with Sir Flanders Petrie and some of the other, Basil Davidson, and there was a Robert Menzies, and they had these classical British people who, British, if you're British, you just know. I mean, you know if you're British. If you're British, you tell people how things are done, and people listen, because Britons know. And these Britons knew this. They knew that whoever built these pyramids was a mathematical genius. Wow. And they knew that if they were mathematical geniuses, they had to use a special type of measurement. Woo! And they know the special type of measurement was the British pyramid inch. They knew. And so did. And so it is in your books. And there was a big argument, I'm serious. There was a big argument in Parliament and in the Congress of the United States. You know, the United States has always lived up to the British anyway, because they came from Newgate, Marshalsea prison. So whatever Britain said the United States is going to do, that's still happening. You're not laughing. I'm laughing. That's still happening. Because they don't think that anybody over here is worth anything. The scum is over here. So when the British said it was a British pyramid inch, all the American schools went around trying to find out what it was. And then finally the British told them. They said that the British pyramid inch, the special unit of measurement, all through here, is 11 ten-thousandths of an inch shorter than the American inch. You said don't wander away. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back. I had to get away. It got hot there. 11 ten-thousandths of an inch. Somebody figure out for me 11 ten-thousandths of an inch different from the American inch. But don't spend too much time, because I think you're nuts if you do. 11 ten-thousandths of an inch. That's what they debated in Congress and Parliament about. Was the American inch that built the construction site there and all the things, or whether it was I can't take the foolishness any longer. But look at it as just that. Something that people trying to please people, trying to be respected, and trying to not be ignorant have accepted, which any child could see was wrong. But to question the pompous, egotistical, people who started talking like that, was to not get 10 years, was to not pass your exam, and plus the fact, I won't say you worshiped them, but you respected them as much as everybody else did. And you bought all of that. I could go on with this part of it for another half an hour. I will spare you. What I will say, however, is this. Scientists now and desperately whisper that the Great Giza Pyramid may have been built a long time ago, past 2686 BC. They're saying that it might have been built a long time ago before that. And that the Sphinx was built after it, and the Sphinx is now twice as old as they told you that it was. What have they told you that was correct? That you passed your exam and think you know. Who is the student and who is the teacher? It was concluded at the convention of the Geological Society of America held in San Diego, California, that weathering patterns on the Sphinx, which is 36 feet and 240 feet long, were characteristics of a time period that had to have been at least 4,000 years prior to that, and that the pyramids were built even before then. So now they moved back the time unofficially, because your books still say the same foolishness as they did before, to 11,000 BC and 8,700 BC for the Sphinx. They don't know, and if they do know, they're not telling because it's going to upset your respect for them. Okay? Might upset it. When you can see that such a fairy tale has gotten over, then when I begin to allude to a possible fairy tale even more pronounced, or as pronounced, it might not take you too far away. Give me the same respect that you have been giving them. I begin to look at a tale that's going to lead to intrigue, astounding type things, and probably something that in the gut, deeply, you probably thought is. I hate to state that I take a stand now, and members of ASCAP may not like what I'm going to say either. But a lot of people don't like what I say, because I tear down things. I do it in a structural way. I say that the pyramids were not built by the Egyptians at all, not those. I say that when they were built, you definitely were not a gleam in anybody's eye. And I say that the geological structure there has changed so heavily since they did it. So about the only people that seem to have known what was happening are the Dogons. Some call it the Dogons.
Yes.
Down there in the other part of Africa, who told you that they lived up there near the Mediterranean, and it wasn't even called the Mediterranean. Who told you, just like the Silures and so, and Tuaregs, they journeyed down from the north of Africa to the south of Africa because of climate change. And the reason why is because there was not desert area there when they built it, but because of some of the things that this thing generated and the things that happened, it turned into a desert, and deserts always show you two things. Something has happened there in the form of radiation or high ultraviolet energy, or an ocean has now disappeared. Think about what I'm just saying and find the flaw so far in the content. I'll give you 30 seconds to find the flaw. Charles Heston made a monologue. You go again, laugh. And he stated that they found now that the Sphinx might be Negroid.
Might be what?
He said that after 55 minutes of talking about everything else, and he slipped it in 15 seconds. That the Sphinx, think about it, may have been looking like a Negroid. You got to take that. Wow. Isn't that something? Might have been. Could have asked Napoleon that when he shot 18 shots at it to blow off the nose and then dynamite it, because he couldn't stand looking at that shape. Right? Right. 18 grenadiers shot after shot after shot till they defaced the nose and nobody could tell who it was. But you can still see. It still gives you Negroid type features for the Sphinx. What does that got to do with the pyramid? Well, they're both on the same plateau. Some culture had something to say about one and the other, and you didn't find any pharaoh in there, so you don't know who really built it at all, do you? So you might as well guess. And a 240-foot, 36-story tall, 2 million ton monstrosity slab ought to tell you. Why would somebody make something going through all that trouble that looked like somebody that wasn't them? Except some Negroes, amen. Heard that? Oh, thought I see that in. The pyramids, when the first ones were built, all around our earth, were built to balance the earth and stop it from being shunted out of orbit. Not only shunted out of orbit, but maybe breaking the vortex in which our earth spins, and we would have never been born. Some people are sorry about that event, but I'm very happy about that event. There is what is called the straight line theory, a theory that if you take one pyramid wherever you find it on our earth, and you diagnose, honeycomb, architecture, the entire planet Earth, and you look at a straight line from where one pyramid is, you will find another pyramid. Usually, even now, within 3/4 of a mile where that other one is on the other side of the earth. Wish I had a blackboard. But if you take that whole thing and you begin to draw it, just imagine a circle with a lot of pyramids all the way around it. Each one on an angle or trajectory close to where the parameter of something else is, maybe 1,000,000 miles, well, 5,000, well, a long distance away. If that point happens to be on the bottom of the ocean, there's a pyramid there. Northern Telecom, AT&T knows about this. Did you know that? Another little thing they've got, they snowed you. I'm sorry, they didn't snow you. You didn't know any better. So you said, oh, these people are magnificent. Oh my God, look what they did. Northern Telecom bounces signals to its orbiting satellite. You know the last one they had, the one that was watching the sun, you know it's gone now, right? Oh yeah, it's gone. All those billions of your tax dollars, you don't work hard, you don't care. Anyway, here it is, out here in the Pacific, a blue pyramid. This blue pyramid is utilized by Northern Telecom, Bell Labs, and all the Bells, you know, they're back together again now. They couldn't stand that divorce for too long. Hurt too much. They take millions and billions of dollars and they bounce signals off of this pyramid to an orbiting satellite so they can get telecommunications across the international byways. The point is this, they didn't build it. They found it. You could too if you get out in the ocean. It's big enough. It's twice the size of the Giza one. Whoa. High and wide. On the bottom of the ocean. A blue plexiglass or crystal pyramid that they bounce signals off of. And you say, how mighty are they? It's out there for anybody to bounce signals. It can take every signal you ever bounce. It's that magnificent. But Khufu, what's that brother's name again? And Cheops, I can say the Greek one, Cheops, they didn't go out there and do that. When we built that one. And I wonder how they held their nose. We won't even talk about the submarines they used and all the oh boy, wonderful people here to worship. So it's interesting to me when you look at that one and you get on the straight line theory, it holds up. You have a straight line theory coming in Williams, Montana, when you go over here to the United States, you got a big pyramid. At the North Fork of the American Rivers, on a little island there's a huge pyramid. That's in California. At Gila Bend, Arizona, there's another pyramid. At Painted Rock, there's another pyramid. And right over in Illinois, the state that I come from again, in Cahokia, Illinois, down near Collinsville, there's a state park called Cahokia State Park, and there's a pyramid there bigger than the one in Giza. You don't have to go deep to find it. I can go right down the state. What's very interesting about that one is at the end of the snake mounds, who they say are from the Native American, well no, they call them Indians. We don't even go into that with them. The snake mounds run from the Ohio Valley across Pennsylvania, and it looks like a big snake from the air. You got to get 20,000 feet in the air or more to even appreciate it. It looks like a big snake with the tail. And at the head of the snake, right down at Cahokia State Park, is another pyramid. Let me tell you a little bit about it. I've been through it about 20 times. I've gone down there taking pictures and almost got arrested. Because I went out there at night because the Indians told me to do so. And I saw what they told me to do so. Very interesting little place. That little place has in the center of it a big chamber. The chamber is about 4 times the size of this auditorium. Not very big, but it's big. And it's in circles. And in the middle of it, they say somebody is buried there. Now they swear up and down that this encased there, there's a little pyramid on top, by the way. But they say underneath there's something down there, and they haven't done anything to the bottom. Well, you know how I believe that. I couldn't. But here it rests. And all around the perimeter, in concentric circle rings, are spear heads. Spear heads. let me delineate this for you, because it was an amazing sight to me. Here in the center is, then in circles, I think it's about, I think it's 12 circles again. There are spiritists laid out in a circle, all pointing toward the center of whatever was buried there or was there. Okay? Each spirit tip is of a different composition and a different color, except for the ones that are gray. And they run the colors of the rainbow. Each circle gets wider, as concentric circles must around a or fulcrum. And each one is laid out. Whoever was buried there had to be very important. And I'll tell you why. Because in checking it out, I found that the local Native Americans put their spears in there first. Their spearhead, not whole spears, spearhead. But as you went to other circles, they came from Tibet, they came from Africa, they came from the Ryukyu Islands off of Japan, they came from all over the world where these people had come there. First of all, who would make a journey at the time seemingly when this prelate died to come this far? And if they are actually these spirit tips dropped by messengers or emissaries, who was this person? And I still haven't seen a body. They just say there was somebody that was buried there, and he must have been important to the Native Americans. Well, Native Americans were in India, Native Americans were in Africa, Native Americans were in New Zealand, Native Americans, I guess, were in the Netherlands, I don't know. But whatever, I'm just simply showing you, there are wonders all around you if you open your eyes and begin to see. Everywhere you go, there is a wonder. This planet is a wonder. We are wonders for all kinds of reasons. When you begin to also look in South America, on this same continent, at places like Tiwanaku, Chulala, Uxmal, Ciso, places again that show huge ziggurats. Now they get into a whole new terminology. Ziggurats are also pyramids, also very tall, but they're built what they call what? Step pyramids. And there's a long thought. If you start talking again, going back to about 3000 BC, they got into big talk about Rumbardo pyramids and how they were experimenting with them and they tested them out. Well, they didn't tell me they came over to America to test them out. I guess it was Algonquin at that time, or Gautama, other names for it. But you have them all over the place. These are flat tops, though. They don't have an apex. Wherever you go, you can find these huge structures. And if the purpose was to balance the planet, as the ancient metaphysical texts state, those are the ones that are equilateral triangles. When you see the ones that are flat top, that was so something could land on them. And they had a big step where the prelates came down there, and they had worshipful idols all around there, all throughout China and America. They had this. Two different kind of structures, doing two different kind of things, doing it at two different kind of times. But you're beginning to see pyramids take on a huge meaning as we get deeper into the consciousness of what actually pyramids are. We are lumping pyramids together. Now we have to tear them apart or observe them. Dan Rather, anybody ever heard of him? I knew you'd know him. Dan Rather is a reporter, free. About a month and a half ago, Dan Rather said for 15 minutes they found a blue pyramid where? Where? No, up in North Pole. Yeah. So they found a blue pyramid. In fact, they took a vacation recently to go to see this pyramid. Why would Dan rather take a vacation to go see a pyramid, and what are they finding out that we don't know again about a pyramid? He spoke on it for 15 minutes. He said it seemed to be clear, made of crystals or plexiglass, and it was an anomaly. Now this was on news at 10:30. How many of you heard that? I mean, just to be honest, how many of you heard that? You watched 25 minutes. Whoa, nobody heard it? You got it. One person. What did they say, bro?
I saw it on the internet.
Huh?
I saw someone on the internet.
It's on the internet too, but you didn't see the TV thing. You guys are smart. You don't watch it. No. I mean, in other words, you don't watch too much after the 10:32. You don't want the recap as interpreted in your news for you. Well, they're going up to see this great big blue pyramid, and it's so big that they're going to take a vacation there. In the cold. Right. Our planet seemingly has been visited by very intelligent beings. Good. I'll use beings. These very intelligent beings seemingly have been around here a long time. And they've done some wonderful things that nobody on this planet born after that has seemed to be able to duplicate, even with stretches of fantasy and childlike meanings. At the same time, since it was here, they had to have a reason. The legends throughout Africa and China and India is that our planet went through a big change, that something came through our solar system that wrecked Mars, destroyed a planet by the name of Maldek and its moon Malona, and wreaked havoc everywhere, and that scientists in our whole solar system said we better get ready and do something or it might happen again. And thus, on the Martian landscape arose two orbiting moons, Phobos and Deimos. Why do I bring this in a talk about pyramids? Because now they're spending your money again. And C.C. DeMille and J. Arthur Rank and Daryl Zelnick are dead, but they've been replaced. And now they're selling it to you on the internet and on the news that they're going to Mars to view the pyramid, and they already sent a little sojourner, no truth, going around writing back pictures which they interpret for you, and again, you believe it. They did it to you 5 times, now it's gotten good. So you say, take me again, please. Or you say, what does it matter? It matters a lot. Because let me tell you what so far they say they found up there. On a place called Sidona on Mars, they say that they have found a pentagram type structure. Now, pentagram, we know what that is. In fact, people understand that because we understand mechanisms. But a pentagon, we don't know much about except that they tell us to go to war. But that same kind of structure, it was a unique thing when they built it in Washington. It's more unique when they see it on Mars. And if you understand Masonic lore, they told you they built the Pentagon after an ancient symbol on Earth, found in the Jordan Valley near Sila, a rock city, which had a lot of rock cities. By the way, you got another wonder. Over there in the Jordan Valley, you got a whole city carved out of a rock, a mountain. Don't ask me about that because I can't explain the one we're dealing with. Wonders, this planet abounds with wonders. As I said, we are the most wondrous. Here on Mars, they found a face that they photographed from an orbiting satellite, so they said. And then, for the last 7 years, they have raised to and fro about what is that face. They say it resembles the Sphinx. Well, now we know that can't be, right? Napoleon already had a fit. And you know what the Martians are going to have to go through if they found a black face. You know that. If they did it right over here, you know that, boy, the Martians say, oh, God, they're coming. And the Earthians are coming. So we know that it can't be just like the Sphinx here. It's got to be something up there different. Right? So that's why they say they can't really tell from the light and dark shading, the altitude and zenith, and, well, anyway, it goes on for a long time. And when they get through the foolishness, they finally say that it looks like it might be artificial. I know you couldn't record that, but artificial. And once they saw this artificial thing, they said if it's artificial, what could it be, and what, not who, what could have made it? But they're going to find out, so they say they're going to spend a lot more of your money. And Social Security runs out, and no, they're going to spend a lot more of your money. Didn't mean to frighten you, didn't know that? We'll talk about something else another time. What they're doing down here to you while they go up there and do it to them too. Anyway, they have found that this face now, since they had a flyby, how many of you listen to Art Bell? Few of you there. You hear Professor Hogan, he's a very interesting person. I'll just happen to say that he do right here in Detroit at over the Jodo Center. I'm glad you're not over there listening to her tonight, and you're listening to me tonight too. That says a lot about you. You're intelligent. But at any rate, over there at the Jodo Center about 3 years ago, there was a fair, or a psychic or metaphysical fair. And Professor Hogan's, I won't name the name, friend was there. And they were first breaking the story about the face on Mars, and he flashed 1 second. A celluloid overlay over this thing that they had blown up that they'd seen on Mars. And what's interesting about it, it fit perfectly. And guess what it was? A picture of a black woman. Wow. Down in the islands at Grenada. Did you ever wonder why they went down there to save 32 American students and had to take on the whole Grand Army of Grenada? What, 500 people? Trained once a year in their off time? Then had the Marines. And, oh man, to save these kids who said, why are you here to save us? These people need help. I'm serious. I haven't exaggerated a thing tonight. I made it preposterous and ludicrous so you will think. What did they really go down there for? Why did they go down there and mess with those people? Well, I'll tell you why they went down there. One of the reasons is another one. Because the stamps down there and the letters down there would show this black queen that they wanted to remain anonymous, whose picture, and then they took up all, they got the post office down there, they collected all the pottery and everything down there that had this black queen, because that's the picture that fits this overlay perfectly with the cornrows and the whole bit. They said it looked like a lion's mane. Well, you ought to get kind of teed off at that. They said it looked like an animal, a part animal. I guess they were watching, what's this thing that they have playing on Broadway again? You know that. Yeah. It's amazing what these people don't do. It's amazing how when you feel inferior or scared, how you go to any length to remain king and act like a creator when you're not. But I should have known that when they mess over a planet that gives them life, and they're actually going to take on a planet now that they're living on. Somebody's in your house who's going to kick you out. That's amazing to me. But again, ego and grandeur and ignorance goes a long way. When you have things going on now to show that there are pyramid structures and sphinxes all over the solar system, they supposedly photographed it through the cloud cover on Venus 3 years ago. On the moon, they found pyramid structures. They even say that there was found structures on the dark side of the moon, but who knows, since it never shows that face to it. Astronauts say that they go to the moon and then retire and don't like to talk about it. What is this thing? This Capricorn 1 comes out and shows you a whole different scenario. One of the best movies ever made. The last one, O.J. Simpson, never had anything to do. You learned this lesson? All right. Capricorn 1. Somebody remember what that was about? Capricorn 1? Somebody give me a brief overlay of Capricorn 1. Would you?
They faked the landing on Mars.
Faked the landing on Mars? No.
Three astronauts from NASA were supposed to go to Mars, so they had been a missile that was out of the pyramid, and when they were built up in the news, they put it on the newscast that they had flew, but the missile blew up. They were on the Earth, and so they had them down. They were William Bolden and O.J. Simpson run up and killed 2 of them, but William Bolden was the one that survived. And when they was having a funeral for him, he walked into Washington, D.C., and his astronaut suit to tell them what had happened.
There you go. This movie, you know it's only a movie. Only a movie. States that the United States faked a launch because they couldn't go anywhere. But they wanted prestige. And they got 3 astronauts. And the astronauts thought they were going somewhere, and they were, but not where they thought. And so they went up the rampway and they took them down the other side. Come with me, sir. Took a little Piper Cub, took off as the lights went up, and everybody's looking up when they should have been looking down. Well, we do that all the time, don't we?
That's right.
We're looking up now, aren't we? Take it from me, you should be looking down. Let's go on with the scenario. Then it was supposed to come back, and everybody's supposed to say, oh, who was unlike the United States government, NASA, and everybody else. But the daggone ship blew up, and everybody saw it blow up. The astronauts, being somewhat intelligent, said, we're dead. Right? They were alive, right? But they were dead, right? Because they know when it blew up, they no longer could exist. And so they hit the door running through the desert. They were taking them nuts. That's where they take them. And the whole movie is trying to kill the United States astronauts before they can tell the American public it was a big joke. That's a movie. Yeah. That's a movie. Never believe movies. Don't get involved with it. Okay? Except I think the same thing is happening. To wind down with the most way up story possibly that you can hear about the Great Pyramid. That one in the Giza Plateau is special because it was the prototype by which all were built afterwards for different purposes. Ground zero was that area there, and if we go with the so-called tales of Sumer and Sitchin and Malachi York, and Marshall Gardner and every other person who's talked about this, these people who seemingly came from Sirius came here as called now the Anunnaki. And these people that were here gene spliced and hybrided people that were here to work for them and to dig salt and gold and diamonds. Well, they sound like the South Africaneers, don't they? And they needed a landing field and an area that they could use to beam back to their home planet. And they had other planets that they had landed on, which they also put in synchronous concept, if you will. So they built structures there too, where they were like planet preparers and gold diggers. Nothing's changed. And as they did what they had to do with those structures that they had to build, later generations of people, after they took off the capstone, which made it now impotent, and took it away, they now had structures that was dead, and for the dead. The dead in consciousness, for it no longer could do the wonderful things that it had done at the beginning. Our scientists and archaeologists and geophysicists tell us that the two vent holes, air ducts on each side of the pyramid, one at one level, one at the other, were there only to vent air into the pyramid. Other more scientific ones say it is like a celestial calendar. And when Polaris and other stars in the sidereal heavens above Earth pass over this structure, at certain times, two constellations still will shine a light directly down those shafts into the king's chamber and the queen's chamber. One goes king-queen, the other goes into the king's chamber only. Those two constellations are Sirius, and what's the other? Where? Orion. Right. Why was it that even the Egyptians and Nubians, who I state did not build them, because that was not their name at the time it was built, but who inherited and had the legends that were close to the truth about what happened there? And the gods, because that's what these scientists would be. A god is somebody that has more power than you worship. And that's what these people were compared to the knowledge that we have now. They knew that of all the constellations and astrology that the Nubians and Egyptians from whom we on understood, Tutankhamun, Akhenaten, Nefertiti, all of them understood this, that they were the last of the god race, the last remnants of that bloodline. That was a king called the bloodline. They knew that Orion was referred to as the hunter, Sahil and Fahil, the foolish one, always searching for the souls to capture. Sirius, Canis Major, was called the dog star. The Dogon people, down down there in Mali and so, refer to it again with a phrase. They say, when we die, we are going to the dogs. And that phrase is still used all over the world. We're going to the dogs. The dog star, Canis Major and Canis Minor, wasn't until Ivan Clark back there in about 1878 began to state that there was one binary cluster. It was the only constellation they could find that had two suns revolving intermittently around each other. Well, the Doggons knew that long before Ivan Clark was ever born and Leeuwenhoek, the inventor supposedly the telescope, the Dutchman, was ever thought of. They had this on their pottery and part of their songs and part of their culture, and they even formed intricate patterns of dance showing the orbits of planets near that constellation. I tell you now that there are 3 stars there, so they still are behind. And some of the life forms there on that 3rd star are a little bit different. It must have been the ones that moved, or met the Dogons and Tuareg people, or the Silures, or whichever, and even what is now called the Pygmies some time ago. And that on this star cluster again, they have been benefactors and helpers to certain portions of the planet's populace for some time. Orion, on the other hand, and all the metaphysical books that you read now, Barbara Marciniak and so the rest of them, are always talking about the Pleiadians. On the movies, they show you the Pleiadians. They have in the bookstores and the tape rental places, the Pleiadian agenda.
Yeah.
If you never know what to do and think, let me give you a little tone. If they tell you to do it, and they tell you it's right, and they tell you to look up at it, immediately look down, don't do it, and look wrong. Because that means they've got a plan, and there's probably not going to be any truth in it. If it is, just enough truth to confuse you. The Pleiadians, even in these own, how many of you read metaphysical books? Have you read anything about the Pleiadians? Anybody here? I don't want to waste time. Not okay. In one of her books, she says the Pleiadian who talked to her in her ear told her that they were deceivers. Well, that sounds like a lot of people I know. These college universities. And that they might not tell you the truth. Well, if a person tells me at the beginning that they might not tell me the truth, I will surely say, thank you, sir, bye. Because I've heard enough lies to last me 4 lifetimes. I don't need another one, no matter how good it sounds. If these people are there and they have interface with the governments of the United States and other places, and they've been around for this long, there must be an agenda going on. Through the pyramids, the truth of it is that the secondary pyramids were built to show you what you could be and who you are. For they are built like the human skull. The apex and the big crystal, which they call the Eye of Horus, which was removed some time ago, represents your pineal gland. It represents the crystal in your skull, and that triangular structure represents the skull and, again, the ability to become multi-dimensional. The pineal gland serves in your cranium as the crystal used to serve at the top of the Giza Plateau in Khufu's pyramid, if you would, how to take energy and create a 3rd force. We hear of electromagnetism. Those are 2 forces. What are they? Electricity. Electricity and anytime you have 2 different type of forces like this, probabilities are there's a 3rd force that sustains it. It's like a teapot. That fulcrum is a point that the pyramids can now generate, and that you can generate. It's biomagnetic energy. It is a cross between physical and spiritual. It's a force that can hold magnetism and electricity and make them propagate. It's a force that is called biospirit dynamic force. It has had many names: Brill, Orgon. I won't waste your time with them. Do some research. That structure can generate that, which means it can clean pollution, which means it can raise vibrations, which means it can restore, And if you now understand that they not only can clone, but cloned back in 1955 5 kids, if you want to call them that, at the University of Chicago, and studied it for 20 years, and they're still telling you they may be able to clone somebody later. Well, they lie to you again. And if you understand now that the science that obviously could do this could do many things, and why do you think these Egyptians later on, Nubians, when they got the books that they now keep from you, started putting their eviscerated internals into canopic jars? Think now, with the ability you have of understanding fluids and the anatomy better, what that could mean was stored in those pyramids. They didn't embalm everybody. They embalmed special people. What made them special? What was so unique about them? Now, if you can take the fingernail scrapings or finger scrapings and clone a person, what can you do with eviscerated organs kept in canopic jars to bring back life forms that may be amazing to behold? That's what they're doing. Only the life forms they're bringing back, they're trying to be selective because some of those life forms look like you. And some of them made you. And I'm very sorry because I know tomorrow is church. But tonight I shall preach. Then you ask your minister where science and religion should fit together, because in this age they must. The only religion is one of spiritual truth. The creator of whoever you are made you as spiritual beings and made your bodies perfect to hold a soul that was multidimensional, and they gave you a force to show what you could do and put the Sphinx out front to let you know it was yours to behold. You have lost sight of that.
All right.
I don't want to tell you to turn this into a religious denigration. I denigrate no religion, but I honor no religion. I respect them all.
All right.
I denigrate myself and the spiritual mind and brain that the Creator gives me, and I only pray I can get more energy to use it correctly, because I need more help. I got to get a bigger box.
All right.
When you begin to see now that cloning can bring back people, it didn't say whether they had souls or not. It said bring back people and bring back life forms and maybe even bodily fluids, and some of those things are polarized but can hold moisture. Who knows what can be created that was locked in those pyramid structures? And if they thought enough to preserve them that way for a time to come, who knows when that time may be? But this, they're planning a great big ballyhoo party for 1999 at 11:59 p.m. when we cross the millennium. And it doesn't include anybody that looks like
That's right.
with structures that look like you prevailing. Something is wrong. Something is drastically wrong. Those people that were there came to help people here on a journey that would take us away from here, give us another place to go to once we learned the lessons that this little planet had to teach. And he left one blessing. It was called melody. And he left one more blessing to generate that and to work with the crystal within your head. It was called a pineal gland. The best crystal you've ever seen can operate on magnetic and electromagnetic frequencies, and it can also operate on a third force, which means as our sun now becomes more magnetic, and our earth is trying to become magnetic, and people are trying to keep it electric, and people are generating more electricity in very radioactive, harmful form. Hearing me? I'm going slow enough? Stay with me. That means that people on this earth who are now in a leadership position are fighting the earth for itself, and you haven't seen earthquakes and tornadoes and volcanic eruptions and droughts like you have seen, because they're even now manipulating the weather.
That's right.
That's not this lecture. I have a whole tape on the weather wars 1 and the weather wars 2, and it's all laid out, including the House and Senate bills that appropriated it. And very dear friend of yours, Ron Brown, made one mistake. He thought he was Secretary of Commerce.
That's right.
And being an intelligent man, he believed it. The Secretary of Commerce is the one that appropriates money for weather modification programs. One of the most powerful men in the government. Not a lot of females to sit there. Say something else, but it'll be going too far. I'll tell you why that is too. Back again, what we're talking about. As things change here, these people, whoever they are, we call them the government. Nobody elects them, nobody selects them. You don't anyway. We're about the business now of taking one small step for mankind and human, and a squashing to the ground of man and movement of man.
Right.
But some people here are not born of a movement. Didn't come through any kind of gestation period and no trimester.
Yes, sir.
You still don't understand that. You lump everything together, and you even say all men are created equal. You didn't say anything about human and mankind. Our planet is trying to become magnetic because the sun is giving out magnetic propagations. Pyramids, if they can be unveiled again, can tune to that new frequency, clean up this pollution, wipe the wrongs that are done in the sea and the waters, and give you a planet to again live with. That's why they were left as a legacy. But the people that can open them up don't know who they are, and don't know who they are. They are so worried about melanin and the potential for melanin to awaken you whether you want to or not, that they're trying to sell you melatonin.
That's right.
And some of you have bought it. Don't raise your hand if you did. I don't want to. Just say, peace be unto you, brother. I'll go to church and pray tomorrow. Understand that melanin is secreted by the pineal gland. And that melanin, when it is in your system, lets you dream and color at night, releases the spiritual body when you go to sleep. Do you ever ask yourself why you have to sleep? With all the energy you have and so? Why do you have to sleep every 72 hours or sleep standing up? Because you are not the physical body that you're in, and it must be renewed, and you have to get out of it to find out who you were. And when you remember that, and more people are becoming more and more psychic, because that pineal gland is working, and the planet is becoming magnetic, and the pyramids can help you if you understand that all they told you was that you are the pyramid. Your skull as the crystal, your pituitary gland is the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, your pineal gland is the king's chamber. And that when the energies from the earth, because there's a pyramid beneath that pyramid, remember I told you that?
Yes, sir.
Always that is the case. It's a double tetrahedron. And when that energy comes up and ignites a pyramid, it's going to be coming up in your body. If you're using these electrical gadgets and you cannot balance yourself electrically, then you won't make it. They are making synthetic melanin because they cannot manufacture the right grade of melanin at a melanocyte. And what happens when this energy comes in, they say it burns them from ultraviolet light. If you tan and your melanin works, it doesn't burn anything internally, it gives you a tan. And maybe a blister in most cases, if you're out long enough, you drink a lot of water, it's not going to bother you at all because you have an adaptogen, melanin. Melanin is generated at the Great Pyramid, and one of the things they fear is that one of these black holes that they're talking about, which is made of granulated matter, might come over the pyramid again, block out the sun, and the earth will go through all kinds of changes because the magnetic influence will wipe out a race of people like that. Already, there's a cloud over all of Europe. Did you know that?
Yes.
How many of you really knew it? Let me see your hand. One person, I want to count this. One person, 2, 3, rest of you didn't even hear about it. It's becoming radioactive, and the birth rate in Europe is almost down to nothing. Impotency among men and sperm cell count is down to nothing. Why do you think Viagra makes men act like fools? That's right. Women too. When they have Damian, I don't even start with the rest of it. Why? Because they're worried about propagation. If you are on a planet and don't respect it, and change the weather, and pollute the water, and pollute the air, and pollute the soil, and change the consciousness of the spiritual people, and constantly wage wars, and constantly do everything you can against the planet, you expect that planet to keep on taking it? To me, it's been far too long. Dr. Martin Luther King, how long? Not so long. Can't be. How can it be? Impossible to be. And as our planet is changing magnetic frequency to match the sun vibrations coming in, these people are now going to generate the HARP program. High Frequency Auroral Research Project to burn a hole in the ionosphere and all other lives. What they're really doing is scanning the inner Earth because they know they're going to have to run somewhere and they don't seem to be able to get off the planet and grow. That's the truth. As they tell you to look up at Mars, they're looking down at Africa and any other place that has gold and silver to stand against this coming in magnetic influence. They have to get underneath all of that. Deep Impact tried to tell you that now, and Armageddon tried to tell you that now. There are more things coming this way than you can read. You are the one standing in the breach, but you just don't know it. This one, I'll turn it over to questions and answers. For a long time, people wanted to know about what Mars had to do with Earth, while the Dogon said what they had to do, and so on like that. At the site of this pyramid structure, the Arabs there use the word el-Tahir. El-Tahir. It is a word which means Mars. And that's what they called that whole plateau, and those mirrors, which is the real name, they weren't called pyramids. The Greeks called them pyramus, that would go straight up, and we have emulated that. They called them merms. And mermen were what? Men that made the merms. Amphibian type creatures, which the Dogon already told you was the truth. If you believe in native Africa, and believe in some of the legends, don't take one thing and leave another. If you do that with all things that you study. What happened before is about to happen again. This time, I don't think the planet is going to make the same mistake. You have two battles. One with the leadership of a people who want your blood and organs and hormones, but don't want you. And the leadership of a planet who says you're past your time of learning who you are. Which one are you going to follow? How asleep will you stay? When will you do the right thing? Pyramids are there awaiting. You can reach them at night in dreams and sleep, and they will hear you. You can reach them in daydreams and meditation. You can reach them when you begin to work on your pineal gland and activate the melanin within you. And the energy is coming back each day to do just that. That's why it's so hot. Texas down there has had 28 days of 110-degree temperature. You're about to get a few more. That's right. Respiration is wonderful. Do it. Water is wonderful when the steam is still impure. Use it. And watch as you purge yourself how your consciousness will change. Melanin is a chemical that will not take drugs and will not take steroids and will not take cortisone and will not take anything that lowers your spiritual vibration. And the pyramid can balance that out in 6 months' time. Once they're activated, you are the activators, not them. Pyramid power is a wonderful thing. But the study of pyramids is to study yourself. And I hope that you be a little studious tonight. I thank you. gentlemen very much. Now, with Brother King, I know you stayed back in the back when they activated you before. You're not going to stay in the back with me now. I'm on board. Somebody can use the camera. All right. Brother Kiva King, you're responsible for me being there, and hopefully you'll give him a round of applause, please. I asked him to come here because we've got to make a decision about you who asked about consultations, but also I hope you'll make a decision to back this young man and other things that he has planned and wants to do. Some of you already have, met a few of you last night, and I appreciated that very much. At the same time, I would like for you, if you're interested in some of the products that I have, which are tapes, I hate to pick them back on the airplane because they scan them. I have a way of protecting them using diodes, which are also for sale. I'm saying this to him too because he didn't know I was going to say this to him, but try and work a deal where we'll be a distributor here. You didn't know that. I didn't know what he was getting into when he invited me. But the diodes that I have, let me just bring it to you. I wanted to show them to you this one. By the way, if you have something to say, let's do it right quick, second or so, plus I do know we have to do this one. But let me say where I put my diet.
Okay, Dr. Blair will hold his private consultation at Dr. Sharon Oliver's office. You can call me tonight or in the morning to set up an appointment. My number is 313-869-6547. Her address is 20966 Grand River.
Atiba, we'll put your phone number and her address at the table, so if anybody didn't get it, you can get it on the way out. All right, so that you, how much is it?
They start at $35 for, I believe, a general consultation.
Yeah, general consultation is $35.
Excuse me, Dr. Blair, we're gonna just need to hold the talking just a little longer since we don't have amplification. I'm sorry, we won't repeat that error. But since we don't have it today, we have to ask everybody to hold the talking so that everyone can hear. Thank you.
Okay, the general consultations are, okay, you're not recording this now, are you? No, I don't want you to record it. You're not, are you? All right, general consultation, $35 for general consultation. That means whatever you want. If it is helpful, that is my priority. Because I'm trying to make money because I want to help people health-wise. I want to hear about my fiance and my lover and my girlfriend. If we're going to move, do I keep a job and get it? We can help you to get to those things if you can understand who you are. I'm not laughing at that. People have, that's just not where I'm about. I have people who work for me to do that. If you got a health problem, that takes my first preference, all right? If you have a health problem and it's $50, please don't ask me about, is it $50? Yes, it is. A lot of people support and a center who are bringing most of the money forward, okay? It's $50. If it requires a formula, the formula is $25. Once it is computerized and given in a very beautiful form, it will tell you how and what to use, when to do it, the whole bit. And if I can't help you after I hear you talk to me, I'll tell you, can't help you. Beyond my kin, find somebody else. There are people with much more brain power than I do. So I'm simply saying, those are the rules. Somebody found out about that doing hypnosis. I will not be doing any hypnosis tomorrow. I have to schedule that, and I do one a day. I can't take more than that, because I get deeply into it. So that will not be the case. That will have to be scheduled. You have to come to Chicago, or we do it again if and when I'm back here again. But that is pretty much it, okay? The diodes, that's what this is. The outlooks, I don't know if you can see in the light too well. The little thing here. The diodes protect you from radiation. That's where they look. That's a round face and a written matter. You put it so that the round face faces outward as a shield. And you need two. One on one side and one on the other. if for any particular reason you can't afford it, you get one. Guaranteed is not the protection one can give based on what you may be up against. They will shield you. I'll tell you something else. My diodes, our diodes, we don't manufacture them, we distribute them, are rechargeable. You put them in raw spectrum light, not heat, light, and they recharge about 5 minutes for every hour's usage. Put them in there for 5 minutes, they work for an hour. When you first get them, they'll probably be good for a magnetic month into 28.5 days. Anyway, they protect you from radiation from your computer, which is killing you. When they start sending some of these charges through in 1999, people are not only going to be in the images, and you can always tell you get warts, your hair will grow, calcium loss, it's called osteoporosis. You start hearing things, you get sounds coming in out of your ear. It just goes on and on as you get radioactive poison. Right? Then the veins begin to burst, the varicose and everything else, and blisters form all over your body, and corn. Now, magnetic propagation is taking over the planet. Electrical things have to be boosted upwards. The own weightage of the wattage in order for them to exist. Without that, they can't exist. Okay? So when you use these diodes, it protects you from this growing thing. Your computers are the next thing that are radiating outside of your television set. And what I hate to see, a cell phone. A cell phone is wonderful if you're a business person. I've seen 16 and 17-year-old people walking through Jewels and whatever else we have here with a cell phone in their hand. Oh, they're so busy, they can't stop or talk. I mean, they got important business to transact. Pager on this side, too. What is very interesting about it, that daggone signal will find a stronger signal, because if it doesn't, you'll go to another pager outfit or computer cell phone outfit. So that signal is always trying to get the largest one, and when they put that antenna, it's grounding out through your head. You heard about Reginald Lewis? Remember Reginald Lewis? That's Foods, multimillionaire, going to again have Africa and trade agreements and so on and so forth again. Died in 4 months' time of advanced immunism and tumor in his head. And he had money to do whatever he wanted to with it. But what did he do? He got a cell phone, had a boost amplifier in his car, and was always talking. He had an examination in February, was dead in May, I think it was, March, April, May or something like that, of an advanced tumor, and his doctor wanted to keep him alive, but that meant money. So you know he wasn't joking. Dead. Anytime you use these cell phones and you have that antenna up and you can't lose the signal, you are the ground. You are the ground for it. Please put a diode on there and understand we have a going business. Can't get it tonight, 72 hours later, if you write us again, you have that diode back in your hand. Okay. The other thing that I want to say is magnets. 2 magnets here. It's 4 magnets here. It's 4 more magnets here. I won't show you the insoles in my feet. Again, I love magnetism. That's in the feet. Magnets will ground you out, boost your ability to heal, think, speed up your vibrations, and if you have melanin, start generating some good melanocytes so that your body can become new age consciousness and you might survive the planetary change. Magnetism is your birthright. You just haven't honored it. Understand that again. Football teams and basketball teams are now using it. Green Bay Packers had it brought back Ben Favre because it speeds up his magnetism is your new function, and your protection right now is in diodes. Okay? That's why we have them. That's why we have them for sale. Okay? One more again, if I may. Sorry again. I want to thank you very much for inviting me. I know you didn't know you bring this kind of a load on. At the same time, you can. I do it. Okay. So I want to thank him again. I hope in the future, whatever he's doing, to support him. He didn't have to do what he wanted to do. I've had overtures. There was a sister here, some of you may remember, Elaine Jones, who brought me here, I guess, about 4 years ago now, 3 years ago.
Right here.
Where is she?
Right up here now.
Where is she? Oh, come on. What you doing riding on back down? Just stand on up there if you will. That's the young lady who brought me in. I'm going to applaud her if you will. She got very involved in many things. She's a go-getter and go-doer, if you will, and I lost track of her. I have people inquiring to me that ordered from us, and I say, well, you used to be here with Sister Jones. I say, well, Sister Jones isn't doing that. When are you coming? If somebody invites me. Everybody asked me that. I must have got over 100 calls. This is the only man who says, look, it's not that much money. I think you're worth it. I think you can manage that. Quiet, soft-spoken. A week later, he contacted me. I guess what it was. 2 months after that, here I am. I like people who don't talk. I've heard enough talk. I'm not impressed by it. Give me some action too. These two people are action. I think right here, you might be able to get other speakers. You might be able to get into preparedness committees. There's no end to what you might be able to do now, I feel. So I want to say I feel very honored. I thank both of you. You're lovely. You've been wonderful to me. I feel very honored to have you here. And I hope again that some of you will not take what I said too lightly. Take it very seriously, because it's true. Thank you again. Okay, we'll go to the question and answer. Please make up your mind if you have to leave, and I hope you don't run out, because I don't want to run away. Sister, then you'll want to leave before you have the time. I don't want you to run away if you will, but I want to honor the question and answer session. If we run out of products here, and you want them, please sign the sheet. We'll put you on our mailing list. We have multitudes of products. We have over 160 products from Charity Medicine. We do an extensive mail order all over the world. We just now have gone into 2 other countries. So we can handle your order. If you can't get it tonight, contact us there. If you can, then fine. Okay, I'll go by hand until I'm tired, until you leave, and so question next. Yes.
Yeah, I want to ask you something.
But everybody who's gonna ask the question, excuse me, sister, would you stand, because I know everybody's gonna wanna hear it, so instead of us having to repeat it.
Hold on a second. I don't know if you want to come all the way up.
I mean, wait a minute, because we don't have a big wall like out here. If you questions, if they're far off that way, the question is, also be over here.
Okay, all right. As loud as you can, please.
I wanted to ask you about the people of summer. You know, they had play tablets in it, but it was on the mountain. You know, when they came to Earth.
Okay, you want to ask me about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever happened to the summer?
Okay. Summer, sooner, whichever it goes by, was part of Mesopotamia 1. What he asked me was, well, I think you heard that one, whatever happened to the Anunnaki that had clay tablets or so on and so forth, the Sumerian people, if you will. Well, in many cases, the Sumerian people, if you want to say, were simply misnamed. Okay? They're much like the Mayans. I know people who are in Mayan societies, you may be here. I'm not denigrating. I'm simply trying to share information with you. The Olmecs are the real South American people and the only South American people that you should be studying for antiquity. But we study Aztecs, and we study Mayans, and we study Chiapenecs, and on down the line. Why? Because the Olmecs look dead Negroid. So did the Anunnaki look dead Negroid. And they even adapted people here to look like them and made workers out of them as they manipulated gene structures. Don't feel too bad, because people from the Pleiades had already done that. Now we're talking about metaphysics. I don't expect you to accept that or believe it. I'm here to give you, again, solutions to a vast problem. This is an old prototype planet, 22 light in the galaxy. But what it's been able to do is to bring the best and the worst of everything together and see if they can survive. I think the system fails, but we're still here, so maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, that's pretty much the answer to that.
Can we have your number at the medicine?
Yes, it's 773 643 5053. Sometimes they don't have a lot of paid people there for the office staff. Okay? Maybe members who want to work with each other. We've got committee members ranging from here to there. So you might get a voicemail. On the voicemail, if you get it, will be to take your number and everything, tell you about the products. Let me say this now, so it will save you time. You might make that decision even before you call. If you're calling for products, first thing they recommend to you will be to buy our information packet at $14.95. Don't act like you don't hear that when you call. Not to get your $14.95 to give you that nothing. I think we make 75 cents on that because we mail it back to priority mail. What that is everything we have, from the tape to the book of the prophecy to our newsletter to a big magnetic handbook, a diode handbook, an oxygen handbook, all the lectures and so on and so forth, videos, everything is in there, plus a lot of other information about noting, muscle level marketing, and things like this. So it's worth sending for even if you buy it today. If not, then ask for specifically what you want if you want to order. And again, make sure that your name and your phone number is said slowly and distinctly. You'd be surprised in order because we don't know what the person is saying. I had spent a lot of money on long distance calls trying to find out what was said. Take your time, there's no rush. We can record 10 minutes, and once that's done, it's going to go beat, and you won't be charged for it anyway. If you contact us, we want to help. We want you to be satisfied, so talk to us. Okay. Questions or something?
Could you explain, I'm sorry, exactly what you mean by human versus mankind and man?
Would I explain exactly what I mean by human versus mankind and man? Right? That is on a tape, which I'm going to still stand your overview. It's a tape called the Man, Woman, and Children Lecture. Or you can get the Man Lecture alone, which will explain that. Or you can get the Children Lecture alone. Or you can get the Womb Man Lecture. How many of the ladies or gentlemen, brothers and sisters here have already heard that female lecture and the woman lecture? Well, you know it's way out. Okay? Way, way out. Man represents the original person of Earth. I would refer to that as the original person on the surface of our Earth. You have to be very careful when you're talking about this man. That person would be a negrito. Say Negro, Negro, a negrito. Negrito is somebody very short, about 3'8" to 4'5", very slight of build, probably less than 100 pounds. Dark skin, occipital lobe, and a long head, and peppercorn or pinky meaty hair. This negrito is everywhere, not in Africa only, not in China only, not in Australia only, not in the Antarctic or the Arctic like the Eskimos, not in anywhere particular. He's all over the planet. The further back you go in anybody's history, you will run into the negrito, the original melanin-carrying person who inhabited the surface of this planet. That is man, and all the derivatives of that particular progenitor. Human is animal man, not H-U-E. Any of the brothers and sisters refer to as the color, bless them. That's not my belief, it's their belief. I honor their belief. My interpretation is human scooters, the animal god king, who was crossbred, if you will, with a kind of man which is called mankind, producing what is called now human. The Sphinx represents all the crossbreeds and original man and shows you the crosses right there. Mankind also has another derivative, gene splice clone laboratory man. That is mankind, a kind of man not even human. And now it's being done again.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
Question.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. The casing of the pyramid was made from calcium carbonate, right? Am I right?
I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Calcium carbonate. Now, the purest form of calcium carbonate is Iceland starch, which is a crystal form. And when you break it, it takes the shape of the pyramid as it's broken. So with this being gone, and your body is also made up of this calcium phosphate. But with this casing gone, which I would think if it mimics the design of what it's made, of the design that it's made, okay, it would vibrate or have resonance. But with this gone, would this have anything to do with the weakening of the pyramid's function?
Probably could. You went a step further than I've ever gone with it. I referred to it, as the others have referred to it, as a limestone casing. We broke it down into calcium carbonate. What was the other calcium? What? I got to do some research, so I can't answer when I don't know. But I can say this. The casing that was on it, which they referred to as limestone, was one that seemingly was durable to the weather, which meant that that must have been a beautiful structure in its heyday. All white alabaster, if you would, with the gold or copper top and the crystal all-seeing eye within it, able to turn in all four directions. from a perimeter base. Because the lines, of course, were drawn in, so you didn't have to orient it east or north or anything like that. I would say, based on what you said, and I hadn't given that thought, it would fit perfectly with something I should have thought about, and I'm so happy that you mentioned it. Because the bone coverings for people who are meat eaters is hardened, but it is not penetrable, not easily, but easily splintered. The bone covering on people who begin to create their own calcium, this is why osteoporosis is one of the reasons it's setting in. And for a womb man who has progesterone, testosterone, as well as, what do they call this thing they're always giving women now? Estrogen. That bone would be of a different texture, more permeable and yet resilient, able to bend but not break. Much like the bone matter. Now we're all hardened up because we've taken in these other things. I think that under the magnetic law that is coming in, osteoporosis and things will be prevented and bones will become supple again if the person can live through the change. This is the whole point. So I think, again, we were built one way. They made this planet through the Palladians and stuff, and so the electrical place instead of a magnetic place, and now the change has got to come back again. I would think that you now have got to do some more research. I'm going to incorporate it next time you hear it. Remember you did it. I'll even tell your name though. I'll say I thought about it.
Well, let me say this.
No, I won't either. I love what you
Bones
just
were
told me.
designed in the calcium phosphate in your body. They were designed to outlive everything about you. They will live thousands and thousands of years after you die. So there's something in that, you know.
Well, incorporate it. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I hope you sign it. If you don't want to call for me, tell me because I'm going to be talking to you. I love what you just said. I think it's another whole piece of the puzzle which has been wrecked. I appreciate that. Questions or comments? Yes.
Yes, we've been taught basically that we use 5 to 10% of our brain. So I'm curious, in a metaphysical sense, what is that other 90%? How we might tap into that?
Okay. I guess that was recorded. He said we've been told we use 5 to 10% of our brains. What is the other 90%? Again, along that line. As I understand, again, we use just enough to get by with. Because that's the way we've been taught, trained, if you will. The psychic portion of it, which lets us be multidimensional. The part that can function when we sleep, the part that can function on other vibrational rates and other frequencies, the part that can help to renew our bodies and fight off diseases and consciously begin to control things and matters is what we don't, it doesn't kick in. It can't because the field around our planet was an inhibitor and restrictor of that. That's why they put the electrical frequencies around our planet to stop us from using the magnetic frequency, which that part of the brain is using. They call it the subconscious. You notice you say the sub. If it's sub, then there's got to be what? High and middle. High brain, low brain, and middle brain. They call it even now midbrain and right and left hemisphere. As you know, the left brain again is the one that is logical and pragmatic. That's the one you're trained to use. When you have wisdom, you start going into the spiritual, so-called subconscious brain, or the right brain, which believes anything that you tell it, and will start to prefer miracles on your body, in your mind, and with your soul, mind, spirit, and soul, and body, anytime you start to use it. That's why they haven't told you about it, and that's what magnetic frequency can do. That's one of the things that they fear, because without melanin, they can't duplicate what you can do with your, well, say astral body, your etheric body, many things that you can use as force fields, which they can't do. They know if they ever woke up to it, with the coming resonance change, it will be something to do. So again, that's why they say less than 10%. Most of it isn't to talk about, and write about, and argue about, is to begin to communicate with on all levels. Question or comment? Yes.
A question. I have 2 questions. The first question is, I recall a little bit about you mentioned about we originally had 12.
Hold on the conversation, please. I'm very sad.
We originally, we originally had 12 DNA strands and they was broken down. And then you mentioned something about the new babies being born nowadays, how they're set up different or whatever, something like that. They're differently made different to take on whatever that changes that the earth is going through or something.
Third one of my tapes used to be in one of the classes or what?
No, I saw a little something.
A little something was on that tape. Okay, all right, thank you.
But I did, I wanted to get a little more on that 12 DNA. That was right.
Okay, this really is not pertinent to tonight's lecture.
Oh, okay.
The question and answer was supposed to be directed toward the subject tonight.
Okay.
I have 90 different subjects that I speak on. That's not braggadocious, that's the truth. I've been doing it for a long time. If I learn one every 3 months, that gives me the chance to do it. At the same time, I have tapes on each of those subjects. All you have to do is Bible and play them. That gets into a whole different field. I honored the one on man and mankind because I didn't draw the differentiation. I'm going to answer yours, but from this point on, if you ask a question or comment, please make it on tonight's subject. Now, specifically again, what is it that you want to know?
I was trying to understand a little bit more about what you were saying about the 12, how man originally was.
Okay,
had
that is a
12
long, I thought that's what you want.
DNA.
You want the whole gamut. I can't give you the whole gamut. I'll give you the overview, hopefully, I hope you'll
and the
accept
new
it.
kids.
Okay. And the kids. Well, the kids are easy. That's the easiest part. The new souls coming into the planet now by womb man. Some souls are coming. Some people are coming here now. They're not born a woman. At the rate of 30,000 a month. They didn't come from here. They didn't come from any womb. But at the same time, for those that are being given life birth through trimesters and so on like this, it takes a little bit longer now. Don't rush it. Because these souls coming in now are old souls. They're here for one purpose, to fight or flight. They're here to get it on. They're here to bring in information. They'll read you in a minute, and if you don't come with the truth, you're gone. You're nothing to them. Because these souls were not always little babies. These souls were very advanced beings at one time, and they got to come by one more time to get it done correctly. So if they come through you, it's because there's some kind of link with you. It's something you have to give, something they have to give, and something you got to get straight. As I say, if you agree with them and you don't know what you're talking about, they can tell a lie just like that. They can look at you and tell a lie. And you will lose them and you won't get them back. If you mess with them, they might take you out simply because they are old souls. There may have been karma between you and dharma between you, good and bad. You don't know. But you have something with them and they need you and you need them. You both are supposed to learn quickly. They didn't come here for a lot of time. They came here. They're going real big, real psychic, and they're really warriors, if you want to call them that, mental officials. The whole thing about the 12 DNA is simple. There are 12 planets in our system. Souls coming to Earth are supposed to have some kind of cohesion with each of those 12 planets. Here, they were supposed to put it together. Thanks to the Pleiades and the people from Orion, the planet called Tyrant. They cut back through their scientists and let all those little helixes fall down, those little 12 DNA strands. They now call them junk DNA. The Creator made no junk. And those scientists made no junk. Very advanced. Now, when the magnetic field comes about, those helixes will entwine again, all 12 of them, and the DNA molecules will work off those little molecules, and you'll be able to do the kind of things you always wanted to do, but didn't know how to do it. That's if you have active melanin. If your melanin is contaminated with drugs and alcohol and meats and stuff like this, you have a hard time doing it. It's short out. I'll just give it to you frankly. And if you understand that our planet, this is what all this weather is against. They're fighting the weather, they're fighting everything. But they cannot stand against the Creator. I call it the Creator, early Creator, because that's what I hope it's no offense to you. But when this happens and these things combine, recombinant genes again come back. You won't have double O's and X's. You'll have Y chromosomes all the way to A, because it's the full gamut of everybody that ever lived on the planet in this solar system. It allows you that dimensional frequency. Tune to them in your sleep, go there, and when you're awake, it doesn't matter. That gives you power. A lot of people, those helixes cannot combine, they can't come back, it is finished for them. As it should have been a long time ago, were it not for ignorance on this planet. Okay? That's an order. Yes, ma'am.
Deputy Dave Knight, the persons who created the pyramid, do they still exist?
They exist in a frequency. Understand that the original pyramid, when I'm talking about going back probably now, you're talking almost about 250, maybe even 3 million years ago. Different voice of opinion. This is an old place with them. They have a different frequency. Some are called the L's, which we get the L shape, which they call the light benders. It would have been frequency. Okay. They came from 4 different cardinal points of our solar system and really our galaxy. They were called L's because if you take L's, if you take a circle 360 degrees and you segment it, you get 90, 90, 90, 90. Each one of those is a quadrant, a light bend, that L shape. Backward L, forward L. that forms what is called the cross, one of the most sacred symbols in our consciousness. We, of course, give the religious symbolism as far as long before any religion was thought of. On the Western man, they had the L shape. But that shows that at the center of that L shape is a creation, a creator. So those were the people that were called the light benders, or the L's. And they were the ones that came here at one time and had a lot to do with what happens in our system. And pretty much, I guess that's an overview of it.
And that's from the UFO.
Is that all that takes? Pyramids and UFOs, yeah, that will cover, I think, so many things. I think that was on that particular one on pyramids and UFOs. I know it does get into a certain type of UFO, which is identified, not unidentified, that was helpful in the construction of the pyramids and helpful in bringing the people. You know, the old legends about the pyramid of Giza was that people were drawn there around all farther points of the earth. They were drawn by night and day because there was a vibration, a resonance, of the sound of bees, which many of you begin to hear little buzzing sounds now. Don't think you're crazy. As this magnetic field builds up on your right ear, you'll feel like something's there. You see people doing this because they're activating that pineal gland, and your psychic ability on that left brain is activated. And it sounds like it's a buzz in your body, as they call it. If you remember again, the old Native American gave the backward semicircular thing, which meant that you were out of it. That meant because you lost your potential for balance. And the unknown man, the ignorant man, was now walking the earth. But at any rate, to summate, all that is happening is that on that particular tape, it shows that UFOs were all around and helping to build the pyramid. And at one time, it even acted as a landing beacon, much like in Malachi, York, much like in Zechariah Sitchin, for them to even land on that part of the planet, because of a lot of different reasons. So yes, that tape is noted in that part.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry, why would you have it before? Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, okay. I forgive you, I need to lift up stick.
I want to know if you work in the department stores or something like that, you use those laser guns, or you work as a cashier, and you get that laser from the cash register, the new one.
That's not this lecture again, and I already stopped. There's no more people can do it. But go on.
Well, I thought it was this lecture because you were talking about how you protect yourself, you know, when you use a computer or something. I'm talking about how does that, what happens to your body electrically by you constantly using that gun in your work or you being in that cash register? Is there some kind of imbalance that's going on, or is there some kind of protection that you need to do?
I think so. It's like the policeman's radar. The policeman's radar, they have a unit sitting right at their crotch. Men are now getting all kinds of tumors and prostate trouble and so on like that. Females are getting all kinds of problems now with their uterus. Cysts that are growing like mad. Most of the cysts that come with the female because radiation has re-regulated those cells. That plus stress will cause that any time. The so-called computer that comes online, there's a code pushed in if you work with a group of chain stores, or there's an activating program, as you know, comes out of Colorado each day. It opens up all of those programs so that you can register. You know what happens when the computer pulls down, too. They have the whole thing now on the roof on most of these buildings. They have a little module that sets up about like this and like this, in addition to your air conditioner and your water cooler and all of that stuff. That takes in a frequency which activates that program so they can tell exactly what's going on in that particular store. The same thing happens with the credit card that you carry in your pocket, which is a magnetic strip. Okay? So you now have scanners as you come into the store, not when you leave them. When you come in, you ever ask yourself why? That scans that pocket, it will tell everything about you. Once you get the social security number off of it, they know what you might buy, how much money you have in your bank account, what you probably could do. They can put on background music to make you go do it. I know if you're there that long, you can't buy too much because you know you have the money. And the money talks because they can tell you where the money was mentioned, what part of the country it comes from, and how much you have on you. They know all about you. Then when you go, you don't have to worry about the gun going out. They've already got you categorized to what you can do when you come in. And that's where all these businesses are coming into conglomerate under the New World Order. That's a whole different lecture. Oh, I got that on tape.
Yes, this is in reference to what you spoke about dealing with the heart and the frequencies. On July 2nd of 1997, we had a very severe tornado here. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it created mass destruction over this city, and it was not reported. The damage in the city. It was mainly the suburbs, places around. But what I'm asking is, shortly before then, we noticed a bunch of antennas going up. And they're probably 50 to 150 feet tall, and they have a triangular shape at the top with some grills on the side. And I was wondering if that may have had something to do with the tornado that no one ever saw or caught on videotape, or if that had anything to do with the gale winds that they say. And I mean, is that some type of instrument used by FEMA or what? I don't know. But also, I'd like to ask one question dealing with what you stated in November of '96. I came to a convention in Chicago you had. On December 5th of '96, you stated that possibly they were going to go into the right paw of the Sphinx. I just wanted an update on that also.
Okay, I thank you very much for your wisdom. Also for your excellent choice in coming to our spiritual wakelet, which we give every year in Chicago. Yes. People come out to it. Okay. In all non-jesting. Probably